Hello, stackers, investors. Saturday, January 10th, full bore silver. Welcome back. I'm wearing my new King's camo with the polygene technology. I have no sponsorship, no affiliation, but it's got the silver component in it to fight odor. I'm really happy with the order. Fits well, kind of an athletic fit. Gonna be great for hunting here in Texas. So I'm pretty psyched on the order. It did take them 10 days to ship it from Utah. I don't know what that's all about, but it's cold and windy in Texas today, so it's gonna come in handy. Why do I stack silver? Since 1917, 97% of the US dollar purchasing power has been washed away. Now, 80% of all liquidity ever created by the government has been done in the last 5 years as measured by M1, high liquidity money supply. The bond market is on the ropes. This is a major tell. You can track the 10-year, 2-year, 20-year, 5-year, whatever you want. The US now has to pay higher yields to debt holders to hold our debt because nobody wants our debt anymore. A couple really interesting interviews with Market Sniper and Rick Rule, and they have some crossover. They both talk about how, of course, we know in 1913 the Federal Reserve was created and thus entered us into the current boom-bust monetary scam that we live in now, but it really ramped up in the 1960s. You had the assassination of JFK, you had super ultra deep state LBJ takeover, and then the embroilment into the Vietnam War, which is about 15 years. And this is when the debt really started to skyrocket versus GDP. At that point, debt to GDP was about 30%, and you just saw this parabolic move up. And the US convinced treasury holders, bond holders, etc., to hold our debt. And then what they did was they started to print more and more money, inflating away the net present value obligation that the United States had to pay back that debt. And now you see all the foreign investment, sovereign wealth funds, foreign countries flying away from treasuries and holding US debt because it's a big scam. Because in today's dollars, you're owed this much, and then by the time the US government pays you back, your investment is down here. So they've gotten wise to the scam. The money printing continues. Of course, this is good for precious metals. That's why we stack silver. Also, it's not just a matter of silver stacking, it's a matter of harvesting fiat from the regular economy so we can afford to stack more silver. Whether that means starting a side hustle, starting businesses. I started 2 last year. So I can grab more fiat out of the regular economy and then put it into precious metals, the only hard asset, the 6,000-year-old asset that has never been debased. Now, if you are reluctant to follow my argument and you do not believe in silver, maybe you're one of the crypto people that has invaded my comments and you want to short silver, there is a method to do that. The ticker is ZSL, it's short silver, and the return over the last 3 months is negative 69%. So I would warn you against shorting silver. Don't be like Toronto Dominion Bank, who just put on monster new shorts against silver. You know, there's talk of, will there be a default in COMEX? Will one of these banks default, a US bank? Personally, JP Morgan, I believe, has become an instrument of the US government. They are basically being used to launder US treasuries with the Fed. So the Fed loans JP Morgan billions of dollars, and then JP Morgan uses that money that the Fed loaned them to then go buy debt from the Federal Reserve. It's one big circular scam. So I don't think the US government or the Federal Reserve lets JP Morgan default, go out of business, have a Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns type of moment. But I would really like to see Toronto Dominion Bank tank. That would be really gratifying. Other interesting interviews as of late. Don Durrett and John Fennick interviewed the CEO of Aya Silver Company, silver mining. So they have two mines in Morocco. One is Boutamine, one is Zagrounder. Boutamine is a monster. It's 5 times bigger than Zagrounder at that point. It's the older mine. It should be trading at $4 billion. It price to book is really low, fully funded, fully permitted. It is going from, it has gone in the last 4 years, 40 million ounces of silver to 550 million ounces of silver at a discovery cost of 10 cents an ounce. Also gold, silver, lead, zinc, and Aya will be listed on the NASDAQ as of March, which opens it up to a whole spectrum of investment. So might want to keep an eye on that one. That was really interesting. Then they have the Zagrounder mine, and they estimate that they are going to go from 1.5 million ounces per year to 300 million ounces per year. And 1.5 million ounces to 37.5 million ounces a year. They have $300 million in cash flow per year. So financially very sound. If you look at the technicals and price to book, etc., it looks like a very sound investment. Not financial advice, of course, but I'm going to be keeping my eye on that one. Somebody asked about copper in the comments. I really appreciate that. Copper, absolutely critical to any sort of industrial build out, data, AI, tech, electrification. This was a really interesting post by Jordan Royburn, CMT, blah, blah, blah. Base metals are breaking out of a 20-year base. U.S. energy is about to rip through a 19-year base. And people are still calling for a crash. Another 1929, another 2008. Fiscal stimulus is not going away. Trump's going to drop a rate-cutting lackey into the Fed and let them slam the gas. They're running it hot because every other option is worse. This ends like 1974, 1975. That's a 2-year problem, not a today problem. I'm kind of coming over to the view of thinking that, yeah, they are just going to keep printing. And Trump's ace in the hole is stock market performance. It's been said well before by other people that the underlying economy is not great. People know something is wrong. But then when they go check their IRA or 401k and those numbers keep going up, be it in nominal US dollars that are becoming increasingly worthless, it gives them some sort of sense of confidence. And that is sort of the last linchpin of what's going on with this economic policy with the Fed and Trump's team, etc. So I think they're going to keep running it hot and the SPX will perform. 2025 was kind of a choppy year, but we did hit all-time highs on the SPX nominally. So look for that. Again, we also trade options, equities, miners, and that is done through the New York Stock Exchange. That's done NASDAQ, SPX, etc. So, I have stake in this. I don't necessarily want this to crash, but we are kind of indemnified in the asset classes we are in. But, you do have to keep a really keen eye on this because, again, Shiller Cape ratio, price to earnings at all-time highs, especially with these speculative tech stocks. So we're staying away from those. Look at this image of copper producers in the world. These are kind of some of the names that I'm interested in the copper space. So as you can see, Glencore, BHP, Southern Copper, Rio Tinto, now there's talk of a BHP and Rio Tinto merger, which will create one of the largest mining companies in the world. Copper, again, is breaking out of a 20-year base. It is going to be critical. It will be listed as a critical mineral, metal, if it hasn't already somewhere, but I think the sky's the limit for copper. So I'm going to have some exposure more through equities. I'm not stacking any physical copper. But that's about it. That's your update for Saturday. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share Full Bore Silver. We'll talk to you soon.